I love Metroidvanias. I love them so much that I'm already putting a link on screen to my Metroidvania playlist. I spend a lot of time thinking about this genre, which is why I appreciate when developers put major thought into their games, finding that beautiful harmony of story, mechanics, level design, and art direction. For something like Bo Path of the Teal Lotus, it would be all too easy to borrow the Japanese watercolor look and stop there. The hand-drawn art of Bo is beautiful, and it's actually the reason I supported the game on Kickstarter in the first place, though not enough to make it onto the Tree of Blessing. But art isn't the game's only strong suit. You've probably heard the term yokai before. That's a general term for the spiritual or supernatural beings that are found all throughout Japanese folklore. I love how these are integrated into the adventure, so I want to talk about them. Oh, this? I literally just came in from the rain. Anyway, let's talk about Bo. Bo begins with the birth of the titular character. Bo is a Tentai Hana, a celestial blossom sent to fulfill a prophecy and save the world from destruction. Cue the giant skeleton. If you're wondering why I started here, it's because A, this is the very beginning of the game, and B, the Tentai Hana isn't actually a real yokai. I wanted to introduce players to something familiar yet entirely new, said creative director Chris Stair. I'd say Stair and the team at Squidshock Games succeeded. Bo the Tentai Hana fits in quite well with the other established yokai in the game. There's a giant spider known as the Joragumo, some bouncing heads right out of Spirited Away, and a teapot ghost that will probably remind you of a particular Pokemon, just to name a few. As Bo starts gaining new abilities and exploring the remote parts of the world, he'll encounter even more of these yokai. Along the way, the two-headed Torii bird will offer prophecies that serve as hints about where to go next, and the little Kodama are perfect collectibles tucked away in the hard-to-reach corners of the map. To pluck some of them, you'll have to make use of the Chōchin Obake. According to legend, these silly-looking paper lanterns are harmless, though they do love giving people a good jump scare. Funny enough, they actually help us with jumping here. Fans of Hollow Knight should really click with this style of pogo platforming. Upon attacking an enemy, projectile, or other object like the Chōchin Obake, we get to make another jump. I love how this concept is integrated into exploration by using different kinds of lanterns. Some are stationary, some rise higher with repeated strikes, and others stay hidden in secret spots, just waiting to be bashed like a piñata. Similarly, a later area introduces the Karakasa kozō, which is the same kind of creature, but as an umbrella instead of a paper lantern. These guys snap closed after the first jump, making the platforming a little trickier. Did I keep my umbrella just to make a reference to it right now? Absolutely I did. These lanterns and umbrellas act as substitutes for a high jump or double jump ability, both of which are Metroidvania staples. Likewise, we can bash around these pill bugs and projectiles to send them flying into thicker doors to bust our way through. That's the same effect as Metroid's missiles, so you can already see how these yokai are being repurposed for Metroidvania mechanics. And now that you've got the idea, we can highlight some more of my favorites. As you transition into the game's second act, you'll have to cross a long bridge. It's got some flaming wheels and other foes, but their boss is the Hashihime, a giant with torches in her hair. Traditionally, Hashihime are the ghosts of jealous women who guard bridges, and you can bet they don't like letting people cross. This kicks off the first serious platforming challenge for our little Bo. Not only do we need to jump gaps, row boats, and lower some locked gates along the way, but much of the bridge is actively patrolled by Hashihime herself. These moments are intense, requiring us to keep moving forward and stay ahead of her approaching waves. These chases are another tried and true tradition in Metroidvanias. I've already shown Metroid Fusion in this video. Consider all the time Samus has to outrun her evil clone in that game. The same principle applies here. Bo has to bounce his way forward until he reaches a safe zone and Hashihime calms down. But as you can probably guess, we're not leaving this bridge until we actually face her in a proper boss battle. This tests our pogo platforming as well as our aim, as we shoot for the torches that hang in her hair. So Hashihime is baked into the game in several layers. She's not just a boss fight, but an intimidating presence during a chase scene. And it all happens on her haunted bridge, which gives us some great level design while honoring the traditional Hashihime story. Her bridge leads us to Sakura City, which is where the mid-game begins and the critical path starts to branch. From here, we have a choice to visit Midori Forest to the east or Megumi Mountain to the west. By this point in the game, we've already explored bamboo thickets, deep caves, and that dangerous bridge. 3 different biomes. This level variety is so important in Metroidvania games. To call out Metroid Fusion again,
can you tell I'm a fan?
That game is set on a space station with distinct sectors modeled after glaciers, volcanoes, aquariums, and more. Bow follows a similar pattern with its locations, and as we saw with Hashihime's bridge, it assigns notable yokai to each of these biomes. You're meant to head into Midori Forest first. This is the home of the Kitsune, a race of tricky, magical foxes. What's more, Kitsune are the source of Kitsunebi, aka Foxfire. That's the glowing stuff you've been collecting as currency since the beginning of the game. So this is already a perfect pairing, as according to the stories, Kitsune tend to lead unsuspecting humans deep into the forest. As you make your way through the trees, it starts to rain, another cue from folklore. Kitsune no yomeiri refers to rain on a sunny day. This seemingly contradictory weather event is another Kitsune trick. They use the rain to keep humans away from the forest so they can have privacy during their fox weddings. And wouldn't you know it, that is exactly what's happening as we enter the forest ourselves. Your goal on the surface and in the burrows below is to reunite the Kitsune couple, helping them kick off their marriage ceremony. Squidchalk already made sure to pair its forest level with an appropriate yokai, but plain old Kitsune aren't the only ones here. Midori Forest is also home to the Kitsura. This 9-tailed fox will look all too familiar to Naruto fans, and it makes for an awesome boss fight here. This creature is very much like the Byakko, a larger white-furred kitsune that gains more tails the older it gets. This big boy has the full 9, so you know it's dangerous. And it really challenges your pogo platforming skills again as well, especially when Phase 2 starts. Now, if you ask me, the ultimate platforming challenge happens on the western side of the map, at Megumi Mountain. For your first visit to this rocky region, you'll have to climb to the peak to participate in flying Kabuto Sumo. While certainly challenging, this isn't actually the platforming I'm referring to. For one, the rhinoceros beetles you encounter here aren't actually yokai. The Kabuto Mushi is a real-life species, though I will again commend the developers for pairing them up with this particular part of the map. It's a good fit. That said, the challenge I'm referring to is buried beneath the mountain. These frigid ice caves are home to the Tengu. According to the stories, these anthropomorphized birds carry weapons and often guard treasure. There are definitely some goodies to grab down here, but our real objective is to prove ourselves to the Tengu clan and gain access to their palace. As you can probably guess, this is where the platforming comes into play. The ice caverns are divided into 2 sides, and we'll need to clear both trials to get 2 keys that open the palace. Both sides of the cavern are filled with deadly spikes and strong wind currents, forcing us to make full use of all of our abilities, bouncing off of enemies, slashing through grapple points, gliding in the breeze, and more. The second passage is even trickier, requiring a pair of ice picks that are only unlocked after clearing Path 1. Oh, and both sides crescendo into battles against some of these flying feathered fighters. First is a fight against a solo Tengu, then a duo. And if all of that wasn't enough, we'll have to face a trio before we actually finish this whole questline. That's not 3 regular Tengu, mind you. It's a face-off against the duo and their master, the Dai Tengu. I guess it's a good thing we already passed the Ice Cavern trials, because all of that aerial mastery is required for this boss fight too. The Dai Tengu doesn't like to fly down to your level too often, so staying aloft for the majority of the fight is your best bet. It's a challenging bout for sure, but one that caps off another perfect pairing. Flying warriors who've made their home in a windy ice cavern. As with everything else, Squidchalk put deep thought into this setting. This checks the box for an ice level, while also providing some cool characters and an appropriately difficult set of challenges. And the platforming that comes after feels even more epic. This is the Gashadokuro, a giant skeleton yokai that, according to legend, wanders the land at night, snatching up and even eating innocent travelers. This is the same one we saw skulking in the background way back at the beginning of the game, and now as we enter the final act, we get to actually climb it, Shadow of the Colossus style. This isn't the true climax of the game, but I'm still going to leave it there, with just a tease about our big bony friend here.
I can't be spoiling the whole game now.
Not when I really believe you ought to play it for yourself. There is so much more cool stuff to see and do. I haven't even mentioned the Vermilion Stranger, but that's something you should discover for yourself. Honestly, I'd love it if you read up on all the yokai I've mentioned in this video. These traditional Japanese stories are such a rich topic, and there are plenty of links in the description if you're interested in learning more. I know I love learning, and I love sharing what I've learned with all of you lovely people. That's one of the main driving forces behind this channel. If I've turned you on to a new topic with this video, that's awesome. And if you're interested in playing Bow Path of the Teal Lotus for yourself after this, then obviously I'd encourage that too. It's a new legend that's worth remembering.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what Framework is doing, please hit that subscribe button in the middle. It would help me out an awful lot if you do. And if you want to see what I've already cooked up, you can hit that link on the far left. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.